Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is JJ. I'm a writer, a publicist, and an editor, and I work with authors all the time to help them create a platform that works for them, to help them through the publication process, and really to help them find their footing as they enter into the publishing industry. I wanted to start today off with one of the things that the authors I work with struggle the most with, and this today is comparable titles. If you have ever tried to submit your book to a literary agent or to a publishing house, it's almost a 100% certainty that they will eventually, one of the two, whoever you end up submitting to, one of the two, eventually you will have to provide comparable titles for your book. Now, this is a little bit controversial because on the one hand, you would think, why do I have to, I wrote something really original. I shouldn't need to tell them what this book is like. And on the other hand, they need to be able to tell bookstores what other books to put your book on the shelf next to. For example, I have on the shelf my books grouped by age range and genre. Up here is all of my young adult fiction. Here is a lot of my suspense novels. Here's more suspense novels and Harry Potter. Over here is all writing craft books, right? So for any of these books over here, all of these could be comparable titles for each other. Most of these could be comparable titles for each other. Like Hunger Games and Divergent, they can all be comparable titles for each other. A lot of these books can definitely be comparable titles, either because they're by the same authors or because they're all very similar in vibe. Most of them are thrillers, most of them are suspense, and it really helps me know, okay, I'm in the mood for this kind of book, I'm gonna grab one of these from this shelf. But something that you might not have considered is how on earth are you supposed to find these comparable titles, right? Why shouldn't you use Harry Potter, for example? Why shouldn't you use Narnia? Why shouldn't you use Stephen King as one of your comparable titles? And how do you find the books that you should use? That's what we're going to cover in today's video, and I'm really excited that you're here. I hope that you find this video helpful. If you do, I'd really love it if you would subscribe to my channel and like this video and leave a comment saying what part of this video was most helpful for you. I love helping authors. It's part of why I love my job so much. So I wanted to just tell you all a little bit about how you can find some comparable titles for your book. Industry standards dictate that most comparable titles should be books in your same genre published within the last 3 to 5 years. 3 is safer than 5, and with the number of books that are published every single year, there is bound to be a book that is similar enough to yours that you can use it that was published in the last year alone, right? The thing is, you have to broaden your scope. Start looking beyond the publishing houses that you know of, right? So some of the ways that I will do this, some of the ways that you can do this, is you can go on Goodreads. Goodreads is a wonderful tool for this. Side note real quick, some of my author friends will write their books with specific comparable titles in mind, and that's definitely a way you can go about doing this. It doesn't take a whole lot of planning or thinking to decide, okay, I want to write this kind of character, so I'm going to take that character, and I know already that this book is like that. The tricky part is that you have no idea whether or not that book will still be recent when you actually have to provide these for your agent or publisher. So keep that in mind if you decide to go that route, but that's definitely a way you can do this. You can absolutely write your book with your comp titles already in mind. But if you, like most of my authors, wrote your book and then realized that you need to have comp titles, this is the video for you, okay? That's the scenario that we're talking about today. So, Goodreads, one of my absolute favorite tools. Also, libraries, one of my absolute favorite tools. Go online to any place that lists books by genre and by theme, and especially anywhere that has reader reviews. this is how you can get away with not reading every single book on your comp title list. Obviously, this is easier if you've been keeping up with current trends and reading all of the books that are coming out in your genre. But if you have a hard time with that because you don't want to steal their ideas in your own book, or you just don't have the time, you can either write or you can read, and you can't do both at the same time, and suddenly you're on submission and you have to provide this. It's okay, there are ways to do it without reading every single book. And most publishers will not expect you to have read every single book that you're recommending here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into Goodreads and you're going to go to the Listopia section, and then search for the keywords that you think will apply to your book. Okay, so I write suspense thrillers, high action novels, right? So I'm gonna look for action thrillers 2022 or best action thrillers 2022, right? That is going to bring me a list of a user generated list. So other people who are readers on Goodreads have been adding books to these lists after they've read them, after they've recommended them. So you're going to be able to find a list of books that specifically fit that. Somebody else thought that that book is high action thriller published in 2022, and possibly it's one of the best action thrillers of 2022, right? So you're going to go through, find 2 or 3, like just use that list as a starting off point, right? If there isn't one that's specific for this year, go to 2021, go to 2020, go to 2019. Start there. You'll probably find all of your comp titles in one list if you do it that way. But say you write very specific speculative fiction, right? So you're talking about the end of the world, futuristic sci-fi. But it's not like sci-fi like Aliens, it's like sci-fi like Apocalypse, and you're trying to figure out the better way to do that. Okay, cool. Go to the literary agents that you have submitted to, or the other titles on your current literary agents list. If you're not submitting to literary agents and you're submitting to a publisher straight direct, go look at that list of publishers that you've been submitting to, because chances are you won't have gotten in with the first publisher you submitted to. So you should have a backlist of other publishers you submitted to, right? Or the publishers that you want to submit to. If you're submitting to those people, they probably work with books in your genre, and most of them will put their authors on their websites. So you can go through, look through their authors, and specifically look up their authors' books, or the books that have been published, or whatever it may be, right? And then once you find one author you're like, this is the perfect comp title, say, I thought that Harlan Coben was the perfect author to provide a comp for my books. Then you can go to Google and say authors similar to Harlan Coben, or books similar to The Boy from the Woods, right? So then you go through and you start expanding that search. First you start really wide, narrow it down, and then you expand and expand and expand on a really narrow basis. And that will give you a lot of books that you can go through, weed through. And as you're doing this, the other place that most of my authors get stuck when they're doing this is that they're looking for a perfect fit, right? They're looking for somebody else who already wrote their book. And that's not what a comparable title should be. You're not looking for somebody who exactly wrote a book like yours. You're looking for a book that has similar elements to yours, so that if a reader likes that book, they'll probably like yours too. Does that make sense? So as you're going through this, let's say, I mentioned characters before, right? So let's say you have the trope of enemies to lovers. Okay, so you're gonna go through and you're gonna pick one of the books that you found that you've read that has enemies to lovers, but let's say it's like 10 years old, so it's a little bit too old to be used as a comp title. Go find books similar to that, or even just search the trope. Recent books, enemies to lovers trope. Go from there. Or you can search for different character dynamics. So we're looking for best books for grumpy man adopts a child begrudgingly, right? So like if you've watched and loved The Mandalorian, that vibe with Mando and Grogu is the vibe there. But there's going to be people who have made lists like that online. And if they haven't, go to TikTok. Search through Book Talk. Or even, and this is another thing that you can do if you're active on social media and you have public accounts, you should, by the way. If you have active accounts, you can create a TikTok post or a YouTube video, but especially TikTok, you can just straight up ask your followers and TikTok at large. You can start something that just says, hey, I love this trope and I want to read more books like it. Can you guys suggest some books like this? And they'll deliver. People will be commenting books all day long. If you're not on TikTok, there are Facebook book groups for that. Like, anywhere you can go online specifically to ask for book recommendations, all of those book recommendations will probably fit your comparable titles. Cool? So when you submit these to a publisher, you'll probably have to provide at least 3 to 5 sentences of comparison between that book and yours, right? So as you're doing that, focus on the things that seemed similar about that book to yours, right? So maybe it's the character dynamics, maybe it's the fast pace, maybe it's the thriller international spy vibes, maybe it's the romantic elements, maybe it's that this memoirist covered the same similar topics but from a different point of view. You can say that it's similarities and differences, but the books should go together on the shelf at the bookstore, right? So all of these writing books cover different aspects of writing. This one is how to write for businesses. This one is how to brand yourself. This one is troubleshooting your novel. Like, all of these things are about different writing topics, but all of them will be in the writing resources section of a Barnes & Noble. That's the other trick. If you don't know what books you should be looking at, go to a bookstore, wander the shelves, and start reading the backs of the books. And then while you're standing there, you can look them up on Goodreads, you can look them up on the Storygraph. You can even look them up on Amazon and read some reader reviews, see what the readers are saying. Did they like this book? Did they not like this book? What did they like about this book? Because if what they're saying that they liked is the same thing that you have in your book, that's going to be a great comparable title for you if it falls within the 3-year time frame. Okay, so as you're going about that, I hope those tips help you find the right comparable titles and also help you find exactly the right combination of books to help you get your book out to publishers. I hope you found this video helpful. I'm adding it to the Industry Insights playlist that I have on my channel, so if you're trying to break into the publishing industry, that playlist is going to help you get started, get information, get writing tips, get platform tips, and I'm here to help. So anytime you have a question, I would love it if you would just drop a comment so I can answer it in another video. And until next time, I'll see you then. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Okay, bye!